I really want to thank Thrombosis UK for giving me the opportunity to let you all know about pretty much hot off the press, brand new UK Thrombosis Research Network. This is very much come off the back of us appreciating, by looking at the current clinical research network portfolio for non-malignant hematology studies, is that despite the fact that venous thrombosis is very highly prevalent, is associated with significant morbidity and mortality, only a tiny proportion of the trials that are registered in the portfolio pertain to thrombosis. You know, all these other things are important, you know, bleeding disorders, very, very important, but nowhere near as common as venous thrombosis, and yet there's far more trials involved in bleeding disorders than there are in thrombosis. It felt that this needed to change. And so under the guidance of Dr. Lara Roberts, our chair, we have established a UK-TReN steering committee with representatives all across the country. It's predominated very much by haematologists at the moment, but we do already have a trainee who is representative from HemeStar, and we also have a basic scientist, Professor Much from Aberdeen. So good representation, but still quite haematology dominated. But that's the steering committee, but for the membership of UK-TReN, we're gradually spreading our reach. It's still predominantly doctors, it's still predominantly haematologists, but we are gradually expanding, and as you can see from the locations, very, very well spread across England, with representation in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So what are the aims of UK-TReN? Well, we want to create a multidisciplinary network, and I really emphasise multidisciplinary, of individuals who are interested in thrombosis research. And we really want to see if we can increase the number of CRM portfolio studies in thrombosis. We'd also hope that the UK-TReN can strengthen clinician and scientist collaboration in the UK. And the other thing we really wanted to do was to join INVENT-VTE and really increase global coagulation. And let me explain what INVENT-VTE is. INVENT-VTE is basically an international network of networks that are focusing on thrombosis and thrombosis research. So what INVENT-VTE is trying to do is to really drive and accelerate patient-orientated, investigator-initiated VTE clinical research internationally, to get studies that are endorsed and supported by leading scientific societies, and probably as a result get top granting agencies to support such trials. INVENT-VTE's aim is also to really foster international collaboration amongst VTE clinical investigators, and that really includes networking for young investigators. Hopes to promote the development of national VTE networks, and you know, that's certainly something that Lara Roberts was looking at, was, you know, INVENT-VTE is out there involved with clinical trials. Let's set up our own national network and get involved in INVENT-VTE. And INVENT-VTE wants to try and identify the key unanswered VTE clinical research questions and design and conduct the studies to answer those. So the current membership of INVENT-VTE is spread across the whole world. I'm very pleased to report that, very hot off the press in the last 5 weeks, that UK-TReN has been accepted as a member of INVENT-VTE, and we're really, really thrilled about that. And there really are funding career development opportunities by being members of INVENT-VTE. There's something called the Dragon's Den competition, which is held at the ISTH, the International Society of Thrombosis and Research, the International Society of Thrombosis and Hemostasis meeting that's held annually. Early career researchers are able to pitch a proposal, you know, very much like Dragon's Den, with the first prize being 40,000 Canadian dollars. There are also Kickstarter awards. These are awarded biannually, basically startup costs for international collaboration, running up to $20,000. And then alongside ISTH, INVENT-VTE also provide financial support for up to 2 months for training fellowships for people to sort of travel and learn a new skill. again, very much based at young researchers. And there are some real success stories of what InventVT has been able to achieve already, involved with anticoagulation in the pivotal COVID-19 trials, the high-low study looking at intermediate dose versus low dose low molecular heparin in pregnant postpartum women, preventing venous thrombosis, and also the use of rivaroxaban for the treatment of splenic vein thrombosis. And to really advertise it, InventVT are seeking collaborators for these trials that are currently running. I mentioned earlier during Dr. Armstrong's talk about the Partum study, looking at postpartum aspirin to reduce thromboembolism. The SAVOR study, Dr. Roberts is currently putting together an application for funding so we can see if we can try and run that trial in the UK. And we had our first virtual event in March of this year, where we're really pleased to have a couple of speakers. Dr. Dan Horner talked about thrombosis, thromboprophylaxis and low limb injury, and trials that he is getting up and running in that area to see what is the best way of trying to prevent thrombosis in lower limb injury. And then Professor Simon Noble, palliative care consultant with a strong interest in thrombosis, talked about the SERENITY trial, which is looking at the perceptions, both physician and patient, around the use of anticoagulation towards the end of life. So how can you get involved? All you 200 people out there listening, well, you can please join us, particularly if you are not a hematologist. We are really, and you have an interest in venous thrombosis and getting involved, then just email that email address and you will be able to join. And for all of you who are here, spread the word about UK-TReN among your local networks, to nurses, to allied healthcare professionals, to doctors who aren't hematologists, and to scientists. And let's see if we can really get UK-TReN working and really get thrombosis research on the map in the UK.